In 2014 began my journey. Ended a page in the chapter. I was living a life of wandering to and fro, whoring around, drugs. I didn't care. I never would give credit to the devil, but I knew I wasn't living right for God. And I was running from him. I kept feeling this pulling, but I kept going my own way. Off to Texas, got turned around back to Gulfport. Off to Louisiana, got turned around back to Gulfport. North Mississippi, got turned around back to Gulfport. God just simply wanted me in Gulfport. So, on the last trip back to Gulfport, my dad wouldn't let me come back home. And I ended up staying with a friend. 2 days after being there, another young gentleman showed up who was on his way to Alabama, which turned around and got put right back in Gulfport. In the very same home of a friend. We were strangers. And when this man walked through the door, God spoke up and told me my next 3 years, which has come to pass like clockwork in my own life. It's nothing that I can prove in the eyesight of anyone else, but I know it to be true in my life. And this young gentleman, he was so far gone that he couldn't even help himself, and he was trying to help others. So when God spoke up, I knew that there was something about this man. So as we continue, God asked me to invite this man to church. And I did, and he accepted. Well, on the way out to church, out the back door, before we got on the motorcycle, I felt a tap on my shoulder, just like that. And I looked up at the sky, and I said, I accept that, God. Stephen looked at me and said, accept what? I said, come on, you'll find out. I had no clue what I had just accepted. All I knew was that God had tapped me on the shoulder and said that he needed me. Without saying a word, he just simply tapped me on the shoulder, and I felt that he needed me. And I said, I accept that, God. It was the first authority that I was given to lay hands on another. But God said it had to be in front of the altar. So I told the pastor got the oil and refused to let me lay hands on this man. Went against God, put me out. The boy was saved. God sent us on he said to go into the wilderness for 7 years, which was a 7-year revival, to go and seek others for 7 years. They ended up sending this man to Pensacola in a rehab. God told us to go north. They sent the man south. He was still saved. God still worked his miracle. This was in October. As I was studying, because a man was supposed to back all this up with me, and they did not, I asked God for him to teach me himself, because the man refused to. And as God was teaching me, I was in the Word, and November the 13th of 2014, God said, Stephen just accepted all of me. All I could do was hit my knees and praise God with tears. It was awesome. For what the world meant for bad, God intended for good. And this then starts my journey. During the process of him being gone, God told me to put on white and to cover my head. Now to go on a 7-year revival and keep my head covered for 3 years. And that in my obedience, the sight of the children was at home with me. I understood this. With a promise like that from God, who would not be willing to put their white on? And so here starts a series of videos of me stepping out into the light, asking for God's forgiveness for me to being disobedient and letting the world waver His message. Within the 16 months of purification, God had me to eat cut of the earth and to drink water. And a 40-day fast to put this world out. Only to worship, only to nourish my spirit, and to seek Him every morning, and to use the oil, the olive oil, the friendship in which drains down out the 2 golden drains of the throne of heaven. Within 7 days of me drinking water, eating only what grows from a root, God's voice come alive. This is the same promise that He has given everyone else who is willing to put this world out for His sake. Only listen to worship music. Only nourish your spirit, your soul inside of Him. Put the TV out. Put the internet out. If you are not seeking God's wisdom, you are being of the world, and you are not completing this 40-day fast that God is asking of all of us.